I don't think it's any question. Vacations are freaking fun. They're usually a blast. You get to experience and see new things. But I think there's something that we tend to get wrong. And that is how we approach that kind of reintegration period back into our normal routine after we get home. So we're going to be talking about that today. I'm going to go over the do's and don'ts of coming home after vacation. All right? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. I hope you're having an awesome start to your week. If you're wondering why I'm holding the mic kind of right up to my mouth, if you're watching the YouTube video, I've kind of got the mic in my hand instead of clipped onto my shirt. I'm going to try something different because it seems like the last couple of times I've done the mic clipped to my clothing, it's been very quiet and kind of hard to hear. We'll troubleshoot it. We'll figure it out. I will find what the issue is. I might just have to edit the audio a little bit more in my kind of post recording editing before I actually post it to the masses. But this is a constant learning process, so get a little better every time. You're with me on this journey of trying things and failing things and figuring this whole podcasting thing out as I go. Anyways, not the topic of today, but today I wanted to talk about something that is kind of relevant to my current situation, and I was originally going to make a shorter form video of this, but I thought this might be better served in a long form discussion. And what better way to have a long form discussion than the podcast that I already have. So this past month has been kind of totally out of the norm for me. So I was in Japan for a couple of weeks and then came home for less than a week, kind of dipped my toes back into my regular routine, and then left to go camping. So this is not what a typical month looks like for me. My routine was kind of all over the place. It was kind of hard to make sense of, how to integrate habits into my routine, when to take them out, what to do in that kind of in-between period. It was all kind of up in the air. So now that I'm home for a good stint of time and I am back into my routine for a while, I had some thoughts about some common mistakes that people make when they are kind of in that reintegration period of getting back into their normal routine and getting back into their normal life after being away on vacation and doing things that they don't normally do. And some common approaches to that we tend to get wrong. And there tends to be a lot of ways that we kind of tear ourselves down and overcorrect for things that went on during vacation. And I think that approach is really not the best approach to take. So I thought we'd talk about it today. So these are my top 3 do's and don'ts of coming home from vacation and reintegrating back into your normal routine. I'm going to maybe workshop a more concise name for that because that's a mouthful, but you get the picture. So the first thing I want to talk about is do not overtrain to make up for missed workouts. So if you had some sort of exercise routine prior to vacation, some sort of regular scheduled thing that you were doing, whether you were going to the gym, whether you were running, whether you're doing workout classes, whatever it was, people have the tendency to have a lot of shame and guilt about the fact that their workouts and their exercise during this vacation period is not the same as what they're used to. They're often not able to keep up the exact same routine or any exercise routine at all. It may look completely different from what they're used to. And so coming back home and trying to kind of reintegrate back into your exercise routine, what people tend to have the tendency to do is they overcorrect. And so instead of just going back to what you were doing before, you start adding in a bunch of extra things, trying to burn extra calories and do extra exercises and push the limits more than you typically would in order to try and kind of make up for this missed period. The problem with that is that you doing crazy amounts of workouts and overdoing it with the exercise and adding more is not a recipe for progress. It's a recipe for burnout, okay? You are giving your body more stress than it can tolerate, more stress than it is used to, and more stress than is going to be productive to give you the results that you want, okay? So in this kind of reintegration period when people are throwing more and more and more to try and make up for what they haven't done, you can very easily slip into overtraining. And a nice way to think about this is that exercise is a form of stress. Any sort of physical activity is a form of stress. And there's going to be kind of an upper limit to how much stress your body can take in a healthy, productive way. And exercise stress is not on its own playing field. It's not its own bucket. It goes along with any other stress that you have. So if you are reintegrating back into your normal routine and there is all the stress of reintegrating back into work and trying to catch up on those emails that you missed, or getting back into your kids' routine, or trying to clean up the house and unpack your suitcase and get all these things organized, there's a lot of added stress coming from a ton of different places. And so it's very, very easy for that stress bucket to overflow. And you are only going to perpetuate that by overtraining. So what I would recommend that you do instead is, instead of coming back and trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at your exercise routine, just resume what you were currently doing. If you had a routine that worked for you, that made you feel good, that was making you see the progress that you wanted to see, you don't need to change that, okay? If you come back home and your first kind of full day back is, let's say, a Tuesday, look at your schedule and just do the exercise that you would have done on any other Tuesday. Don't add things to it. Don't add extra sets to it. Don't go for a run afterwards if that's not what you typically do. Just do the exercise that you were going to do on any other Tuesday of your life that you hadn't just previously been on vacation in front of, okay? Just resume your normal routine. You don't have to overcomplicate it and add all these extra things and do all these fancy moves. It's too much. It's too much stress. Just focus on slowly easing yourself kind of back into your routine and getting your bearings, and just do the things that you're used to. Once a few weeks have gone by and you've kind of settled back into your routine and things feel good and you're back into the swing of things with the exercise routine that you had, if you then want to gradually add a little bit more just to see what you can do, that would be a much better approach. But keep an eye out for overtraining. Now, I'm not a personal trainer, okay? I would talk to a personal trainer for more personalized advice on this particular thing, but just from my personal experience, if you are teetering on overtraining and you've pushed yourself kind of into that zone, some common things that you may see is progress stalling or even regressing. You may find that maybe you're putting on weight that you weren't before, or you're not able to lift the weight that you were before, or issues with your sleep are going to be a big one. And it's a big one that I notice when I start to overtrain, my sleep is immediately messed up. I have such a hard time falling asleep. So if you're finding that you are exhausted during the day and then wired when you try to go to sleep, take a look at your training. Take a look at what you've been doing when you come home from vacation. You might be overdoing it. Just with the current stress in your life, not necessarily forever, but the best thing for you right now may be to pull back and just stick to the basics. Okay? So number 2, thing to not do when you come home from vacation. Don't start some crazy restrictive diet in order to lose the vacation weight. Again, you don't need to do that, okay? Chances are you have probably eaten a bunch of things that is way outside your norm. You've probably drank more alcohol than you typically do. That's fine. It's so normal for all of us to come home from vacation, maybe a little bit more bloated, maybe a little bit more inflamed than we typically are. It is what it is, okay? You don't need to start some ridiculous, crazy diet right out of the gates in order to try and, make up for what you did on vacation or lose the weight that you feel like you put on vacation. instead, what I want you to do with your diet is more or less resume what you were doing before you went on vacation. But there is a few key areas that you can focus on. So these are the main points that I like to kind of put an emphasis on whenever I'm coming home from vacation and resuming my regular diet. The first one is prioritizing whole foods. That's it. Just make sure you are eating mostly whole foods. Chances are during vacation you are probably eating a lot of meals out at restaurants or a lot of food on the go and just a lot more packaged processed food than you're typically used to. So prioritize just eating whole foods. Don't overcomplicate it. The second thing is I want you to focus on getting your protein. Again, this is probably something that unless you are diligently tracking it while you're on vacation, which is just not as easy to do when you're eating out, you may have missed your protein intake quite a bit. And especially if you are doing things like strength training, make this a priority as you're reintegrating back into your normal diet. Just make a point of going after your protein intake. A good rule of thumb that I like to go by is 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So aim for that and eat it first. This was such a helpful tip that I learned is eat your protein first. So if you have a plate of various things, eat the protein first and then eat everything else. And the reason for that is because 1, it'll guarantee that you're getting the protein intake from that meal, and 2, it is the most satiating macronutrient. So if you eat the protein first, you are going to feel fuller sooner, and your likelihood of overeating is going to go down substantially. So make that kind of your main focus with your meals and then build everything around that. Okay? The third thing, cut back on your alcohol intake. If you're anything like me, you probably are drinking a lot more alcohol than you typically do while you're on vacation. So give your liver a break. Peel back on the alcohol intake for a little while, okay? You don't have to cut it out completely. I'm not suggesting that you be ridiculously restrictive. Unless you want to cut it out completely, that's fine. But just make an effort to drink a little less than you were on vacation. And the fourth thing, kind of hand in hand with that, is make sure you are drinking your water. Along with protein, this is probably something that you have probably missed a lot more than usual while you were on vacation, just because, where you're running around, you're busy. You might be, if you're somewhere hot, sitting on a beach and sweating and in the sun and drinking a ton of alcohol, and it's all a recipe for dehydration. So drink your water. Aim for at least 2 to 3 liters of water a day. Okay, make that kind of your goal to aim for. And it doesn't have to be water. It should be water. Ideally, that's probably the best thing for you to choose. But if you are one of those people who really hates water for some reason or another, just anything that is not caffeine or alcohol. Just make sure you're staying hydrated. Okay, that's all. You don't have to do anything crazy restrictive. You don't have to severely cut back your calories. You don't have to do all these crazy diets when you get home just to try and make up for anything that you did. Just focus on these 4 things and eat, kind of in the way that you were eating before you went on vacation. Chances are after a few weeks, your body will just go back to the way that it was when you were eating that way before. The same way that eating salads for 2 weeks and then resuming a life of nothing but junk food is not going to make you skinny. You eating the way that you eat on vacation for a couple of weeks and then resuming your normal routine is not going to derail all of your progress. You can just go back to what you were doing before, okay? Going on vacation and enjoying yourself for a couple of weeks does not mean that you need to course correct in this dramatic way, okay? The third thing that I do not want you to do, I don't want you to beat yourself up for A, the things that you ate or drank while you were on vacation, and B, the productivity or lack thereof while you were on vacation, okay? I think we have a huge tendency to come home and then kind of sit and marinate in this shame and guilt about, oh, I ate all of these things, I drank all this alcohol, I spent all this time not doing anything productive, and then beating ourselves up for it. That's not the point, okay? The point of you going on vacation is to have these new experiences and to enjoy yourself and to relax. And there's nothing wrong with you just fully leaning into that, being present in the moment, and letting that be fine. You don't have to come home and beat yourself up for it. You can just go home and resume your regular routine, okay? You didn't do anything wrong by going on vacation and enjoying yourself. That is part of life. That's an amazing part of life, and it's a privilege that you got to do it, okay? Don't come home and beat yourself up. So instead, the strategy that I want you to take is take some time to kind of reflect on the experience that you had. And instead of focusing on shame and guilt over the things that you did or did not do, I want you to focus on practicing gratitude and really lean into it. Really lean into practicing gratitude for the things that you got to experience, for the relaxation time that you got to have, for the new adventures that you got to be a part of. Leaning into the gratitude of what the vacation was can kind of help strip away those kind of post-vacation blues and that post-vacation guilt, and instead just kind of let you sit in that, like, wow, what an amazing thing that I got to do this. I got to have this incredible experience. I got to see these things. I got to spend time with these people. I got to have this really fun experience. And it can be a really helpful tool to just get you in a much more positive mindset in reflecting on your vacation and in moving forward with your day-to-day life. Okay. So I think that's kind of all I have for you today. These are just 3 common mistakes that I think a lot of us make, that I know I've definitely made in the past, coming home from vacation and trying to get back into my routine and get some semblance of normalcy. And I think we have a tendency to just royally overcomplicate it and add in all these things that we don't need to add in, and cutting back all these things that we don't need to cut back on. Just more or less aim for your normal routine, because that's kind of the main goal right now, is just finding your footing and resettling back into the routine that you had before. This is not the time that you need to be redoing all of your habits and getting extreme with the things that you do. It's not going to help you long term. It's not going to help with the stress of reintegrating back into your life, and it's ultimately probably not going to make you feel super good, okay? Don't take such a dramatic approach when you come home. You had this great experience, and that's amazing, and that's wonderful, and you are capable of coming back into your life and just kind of settling back into your routine in a healthy, positive way. All right? If you're still here, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next episode. If you like the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support allows this show to reach even more amazing people just like you, and it means the absolute world to me. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.